The morning my sister-in-law announced her engagement party would be held at the Whitmore Club, I already knew what that meant for me. My brother called on a Tuesday. I was still in my car in the hospital parking garage, still in my scrubs, eating a granola bar because I hadn't had time for lunch. Or breakfast. It was 4:30 in the afternoon. Adriana's parents are hosting the party at the Whitmore, he said. Black tie, the last Saturday of next month. I told him I'd be there. What I didn't tell him was that I had 3 surgeries scheduled that morning and a journal submission due the night before. I didn't tell him those things because in my family, those details had never once mattered. In my family, I was the one who left. My parents came from Guadalajara. My father built a landscaping business from 2 trucks and a borrowed mower. My mother cleaned houses 6 days a week until her knees gave out. They gave everything they had to the neighborhood, to the church, to family, and they expected everything back in return. That was the deal. That was always the deal. My brother stayed. He married a local girl, bought a house 3 streets from our parents, and showed up for every birthday, every quinceañera, every Sunday dinner, without fail. He was good. He was present. He was everything they wanted. I left for college at 17. I came back for holidays when I could. I sent money when my parents needed it, though no one ever acknowledged that directly. I became a doctor, a neurosurgeon specifically, and somehow that became the thing that made me selfish. You always think your schedule is more important than everyone else's. My mother told me once, when I had to leave Christmas dinner early for a patient. She said it the way you say something you've been holding for a long time. Like the words had been sitting in a drawer, waiting. I stopped explaining myself after that. The engagement party was on a Saturday I had originally blocked for research. I rearranged things. I flew in from Boston the night before, took a red-eye, landed at LAX at 5:50 in the morning with a carry-on and a garment bag, and that specific kind of exhaustion that settles behind your eyes. My mother had texted me 14 times about what to wear. Don't wear anything too formal. Adriana's family is elegant. Don't make it about yourself. I didn't respond to that last part. The Whitmore Club is the kind of place that requires a member sponsor just to eat lunch there. Old money, dark wood paneling, wait staff in white gloves. Adriana's family had been members for 40 years. Her father was a real estate developer who wore cufflinks to casual dinners. Her mother collected art and had opinions about wine vintages that she shared whether you asked or not. They were perfectly pleasant to me, the way people are pleasant to someone they've already categorized. I arrived at the venue an hour before the party started because I needed to change and freshen up. I found my family gathered in the lobby, my parents, my brother, his fiancée, 2 aunts who had flown in from Phoenix, and my sister-in-law-to-be's parents, who I was meeting for the first time. My mother hugged me and then held me at arm's length and looked at my dress. "Isn't that a little much?" she said. It was a navy wrap dress, tasteful, conservative, even. "It's fine, Mom. You just always want to stand out." Adriana's mother, whose name was Cecilia, introduced herself with a warm smile and then asked what I did. "I'm a neurosurgeon," I said. There was a pause, the kind of pause people make when they're recalibrating. "Oh," she said. "Impressive." And then she turned to my brother and started talking about the rehearsal dinner venue. My father pulled me aside near the coat check. He was in a good suit, my father. He looked proud, which he's just not of me, not tonight. Tonight he was proud of my brother, of this match, of the fact that his son was marrying into a family with a Whitmore Club membership. "Try to be warm tonight," he said to me. Not hello, not how was your flight, just that. "I'm always warm," I said. "You know what I mean. Don't talk about work. Don't make everything about your accomplishments. These people are," he stopped. "These people are what, Dad?" "Different," he said. "They're not impressed by titles. They care about character." I looked at him for a moment. I thought about what I'd rearranged to be here. I thought about the red eye and the granola bar and the 14 texts about my dress. Okay, I said. He clapped me on the shoulder and walked back toward the group. Dinner was seated. I was placed at a table near the back, not the family table, where my brother and his fiancée sat with both sets of parents, but a secondary table with the cousins from out of town and a few of Adriana's friends I'd never met. I didn't think much of it at first. There were 40 people at this party. Seating logistics were complicated, but then I noticed that my mother was at the family table. My 2 aunts were at the family table. There was, in fact, an empty chair at that table. I was not at that table. I smiled at the people around me and introduced myself and ate the salmon and talked about things that had nothing to do with neurosurgery, because my father had asked me not to. Halfway through the entree, Cecilia came by to check on tables. She stopped at ours, said something lovely to Adriana's college roommate, and then looked at me. "Are you comfortable here?" she asked. The way she asked it was careful, like she was confirming something she already knew. "Of course," I said. She patted my shoulder the way you pat the shoulder of someone you feel mildly sorry for and moved on. I excused myself to use the restroom. In the hallway, I passed my brother. "Hey," he said. He looked a little uncomfortable. "How's your table?" "It's fine." Adriana's mom did the seating. She thought it would flow better, keeping the families. He stopped. "It's fine," I said again. He looked relieved. That was the part that stayed with me, how relieved he looked to hear that. After dinner, there were toasts. Adriana's father went first, then my father, then the maid of honor. Everyone laughed at the right moments. The champagne was good. I drank mine and watched my brother's face while our father spoke about him, about how proud he was, about the family he'd built and the man he'd become. My father used the word legacy twice. I thought about the research I was missing. I thought about the paper I was submitting to the Journal of Neurosurgery in 11 days. I thought about the resident I'd been mentoring, a young woman from El Paso who reminded me of myself, who had texted me that morning. "Dr. Vasquez, the patient in 4C is asking for you specifically. I told them you were out of town. They said they'd wait. A patient with a glioblastoma said they'd wait for me." I pressed my thumb into my palm under the table and smiled. After the toast, there was dancing. I stood near the edge of the room and talked to one of Adriana's cousins, a software engineer from Seattle who was funny and unpretentious and didn't care about the Whitmore Club at all. We talked for a long time. At some point, Cecilia materialized at my elbow. "Your family is so lovely," she said. "Your parents are just wonderful people." She paused. "And your brother, he is going to be such an asset to our family." She said it with complete warmth, like she was giving me a gift. "He really will be," I said. "And you?" Another pause, a different kind. "What is it that you do again, dear? Something in medicine?" I had told her 2 hours ago. "I'm a neurosurgeon," I said. "I'm on faculty at Mass General." "Oh, that's wonderful," she said, the same way she'd said it the first time. Then, "Do you enjoy Boston?" "I always find it a bit cold." She smiled and drifted away. My mother found me 20 minutes later. She had that look she gets when she's been worrying about something and hasn't found a good moment to say it. "You've been standing over here all night," she said. "I've been talking to people." "You need to mingle more. Go talk to Adriana's family." I talked to Cecilia twice. Her father, I mean. And her uncle, he's a judge. She lowered her voice. "He's very important. You should introduce yourself." I thought about saying, "Mom, I'm a neurosurgeon at one of the most competitive hospitals in the country, and I published 3 papers last year." I thought about saying, "I flew here on no sleeps because you asked me to be here." I thought about saying a lot of things. "I'll go say hello," I said. She nodded, satisfied, and went back to the family table. I found Adriana's uncle near the bar. He was a federal judge, I'd been told, appointed. He had the bearing of someone who knew his own resume. We talked for about 10 minutes, and at some point he asked what I did. Neurosurgery, I said. I specialize in brain tumor resection. I'm at Mass General. He looked at me differently after that. Not a lot. Just a fraction of a degree, like a compass needle correcting. That's serious work, he said. It is. Who trained you? I told him. He knew the name. Everyone in that world does. He asked a few more questions, real ones this time. And I answered them, and by the end of the conversation, he was handing me his card and saying something about a colleague's daughter who had recently been diagnosed. I took the card. I told him to have her office call mine. I walked back toward the edge of the room, feeling something I couldn't quite name. Not satisfaction. Something more tired than that. The party was winding down. People were collecting their coats and exchanging the long goodbyes that these events always produce. I found my brother and hugged him and told him I was happy for him, which was true. "You're catching an early flight tomorrow?" he asked. 6:15. He winced. "You didn't have to do that. I wanted to be here." He hugged me again, and this time it felt real, and I let myself have it for a second. My parents were near the exit, talking to Adriana's parents. I went over to say goodnight. My father was in the middle of a story. He didn't pause when I approached. "Cecilia looked it soon?" "Early flight," I said. "Of course. You're very busy, I'm sure." She smiled. "It was lovely to meet you. You as well." My mother walked me to the lobby. We waited for my car in silence for a moment. "You did well tonight," she said finally. "Thank you. You were a little quiet. But that's okay. Not everyone needs to be the center of attention." I looked at her. My mother, who had worked herself to the bone. My mother, whose hands were permanently rough from years of cleaning other people's homes. My mother, who stood in a room full of money and old family names and cared so much about what they thought of us that she had forgotten for a moment what she had actually raised. "Mom," I said, "I operate on people's brains." She blinked. When someone's child has a tumor, when the scans come back and the oncologist makes the referral, and the family is sitting in my office not knowing if their person is going to wake up from surgery, they call me. That's what I do, and I'm very good at it. She was quiet. I'm not quiet because I don't have anything to say. I'm quiet because I don't need to perform for people who've already decided what I am. My car pulled up. "I love you," I said, and I meant it. "Good night." I was almost to my hotel when my phone rang. Unknown Boston number. I almost didn't answer. "Dr. Vasquez?" It was the charge nurse from the neuro ICU, one I'd worked with for 3 years. Her voice was steady, which meant it was manageable, but she wouldn't call at 11:30 on a Saturday if it wasn't urgent. "I'm sorry to call. It's the Delacroix family. Their daughter took a turn. Dr. Okafor thinks we're looking at an ICP crisis. He's asking if you're available to consult by video or if I'll fly back tonight," I said. Silence. "Dr. Vasquez, your flight is at 6. I'll fly back tonight. Can you get me a car to LAX in the next 40 minutes? "Yes, of course. I'll call ahead." I hung up and stared out the car window at the freeway lights moving past. Then I called the airline. There was a red-eye at 12:50. I rebooked. I texted my brother, had to head back early. "Emergency. So happy for you and Adriana. Take care of yourself." He responded in 3 minutes. "Is everything okay?" I typed, "A patient needs me." Then I looked out the window again. The freeway. The dark. Los Angeles spreading out in every direction, 10 million people living their lives. Somewhere in this city, my family was finishing the last of the champagne and talking about the party, about who wore what, about whether the salmon was overcooked. And somewhere in Boston, a 19-year-old girl named Sophie Delacroix was in a bed in the neuro ICU, and her parents were sitting in the waiting room, and they were terrified, and they were waiting for me. I scrubbed in at 7:40 in the morning Boston time. I had slept on the plane. 2 hours, maybe 2.5, with my neck at an angle that I'd regret for days. I changed in the locker room, drank half a coffee, reviewed the overnight scans with Dr. Okafor, and then I walked into that OR and I did what I was trained to do. The surgery took 4 hours and 11 minutes. Sophie Delacroix was 19 years old and had a grade 3 astrocytoma that we had been managing for 8 months. That morning, we evacuated a hematoma that, left unaddressed, would have caused catastrophic and irreversible damage within hours. By noon, she was in recovery. By 2 in the afternoon, when her parents finally came in to see her, she was awake and asking for her phone. I sat in the attending lounge afterward with the same half-cold coffee, and something I couldn't quite explain settled over me. Not pride, exactly. Not triumph. Something quieter. The kind of feeling that comes from knowing, without any doubt, that you were exactly where you were supposed to be. My brother texted at some point that afternoon, "Hope everything's okay. Mom is asking about you." I thought for a long time about what to say. Then I just typed, "Everything's fine. The patient is going to be okay." He sent back a heart. My mother called that evening. I was still at the hospital, finishing charts. I let it ring and then called her back when I was in my car. "You left in the middle of the night," she said. It wasn't quite an accusation, more like she was trying to understand. A patient needed emergency care. I'm the surgeon of record. Silence. "Is she okay?" I paused. "She will be." My mother was quiet for a long time. Long enough that I thought maybe the call had dropped. "I didn't know," she said finally. "I didn't know it was like that." "I know," I said. "I don't always understand what you do." "I know that too. You couldn't have. Someone else couldn't have gone?" And this was the heart of it, really. This was the question she had been asking me, in different forms, my whole life. Couldn't someone else? Couldn't someone else want the things you want? Couldn't someone else be the one who leaves? Couldn't you just be here? "No, Mom," I said as gently as I could. "Not for her, not last night." She made a sound that wasn't quite crying, more like something releasing. "You should have told us more," she said. "About what you do." "I tried to," I said. "You told me not to talk about work." Silence again. And then, softer, "You're a good doctor." It was the first time she had ever said that to me directly, in those words, after 31 years. "Thank you," I said, and I held on to it, that little piece of her. 2 weeks later, I got a letter, actual paper handwritten on heavy cream stationery. It was from Adriana's uncle, the federal judge. He wrote to say that his colleague's daughter had called my office and that I had fit her in, and that after her first consultation, the family had felt, for the first time, as though there was reason for hope. "I confess I had not properly understood who you were when we spoke," he wrote, "though I should have listened more closely. Please accept my sincere respect and know that the Whitmore Club's Physician of the Year dinner next spring would be honored to have you as a featured speaker if you are ever in Los Angeles." I folded the letter and put it in my desk drawer. I didn't go to the dinner. I had a surgery that morning, and anyway, I had never needed the Whitmore Club to know who I was. But I kept the letter. I'm not entirely sure why. Maybe because there's something in being seen, truly seen, that never fully loses its weight, no matter how many years you spend learning to live without it. Or maybe I kept it for the same reason I became a surgeon in the first place. Because some things are worth holding on to, even when you think you're past needing them. Sophie Delacroix sent me a card 3 months later. She was back at USC. She was studying marine biology, she said, because she had decided that life was short and oceans were interesting. She drew a little fish in the corner of the card, lopsided and cheerful. I pinned it above my desk, next to my medical license. In my family's eyes, I had always been the one who left, but I knew something they didn't, something that took me a long time to stop needing to explain. I hadn't left to escape. I had left because somewhere out there was a girl who would need me on a Saturday night, and I had to be ready. She is clothed with strength and dignity, and she laughs without fear of the future. Proverbs 31:25.